Hey you, I'm Ikoff, and I'm about to paint a mural on this wall. It's for a young man named Nico. It's gonna be really cool, a little snake spelling out his name. So I'm gonna get my projector set up and sketch out the image on the wall, and I'm just gonna get right down to it. Let's do it. But before we start painting, let's take a look at the sketch process. This is a time lapse of me sketching on my iPad. Procreate is the app, and I basically just took a picture of the wall and started sketching in the app. And the client wanted me to spell out Nico using a snake, and I thought that was a cool concept, but it was a unique challenge for me because text is not my strong suit. I'm not a graffiti writer, I'm not a typographer. The art of typography, which is basically text, art, layout, composition, design, all that, it's not my strong suit. I don't have a ton of experience doing this art form. So this was a challenge for me for sure, but my client gave me a lot of faith in my style. They basically were like, we like everything you do. And those are the magic words for me as an artist. It gives me confidence, it prevents artist block, and makes it much less stressful. So I kind of just got a basic concept together and filled it out with my style and the shapes that I make, and they ended up really liking it. I did this colorway first, and the boy Nico liked the grayscale version of this, so you'll see that I don't use these actual colors in the final piece. So anyway, here we are tracing out the image. I got my projector set up. I love using a projector when I can. I do like freehanding murals. They're really fun, but if I have to do a thorough design process where the client wants to see and approve of the image, which is typically the case, like 95% of the time, I might as well just use this transferring method. It's an interior wall, so my elements are controlled. It was pretty bright on the day that I painted this, so you can see that the image is not super crisp. It's really dull. Even those blacks are coming out just a little bit darker gray. But it's still enough to where I can see it and understand where my shapes are and where my lines are going to go. So you see me transferring the sketch on with a paint marker. This is kind of a similar marker, just like cheaper brand of those Molotov paint pens that you see. Also, another brand is Posca pen. This is just, I don't even know what the brand is, but it's just one that you can get at Michael's art supply store for pretty cheap. And this is just a nice way to transfer an image because it has that chiseled felt tip, and you can get really fine lines, but then you can turn it on its side and get more bold lines, a thicker line. And anyway, here we are sketching out the rest of the image, taking advantage of this projector. And this is kind of a process that it doesn't take a whole lot of precision. You want to be as close as you can, but in the end, you want to keep it loose and just kind of mark where everything should go. We're not trying to get things perfect. We're not copying all the details and whatnot, because once I start painting, it's going to become more of an organic process, and you'll see that in the video of me actually painting it. And I kind of I'm just, it's a process of making strokes that are the texture, so I'm not really scrutinizing the little details of the scales and whatever. It's more of just a process of using the brush to make strokes that are kind of in my style. It's not exactly realism and what scales actually would look like on a snake, but it's just how I apply the paint with a paintbrush. And like I said, just keeping it loose. You see I'm holding that paintbrush at the very end of the handle, and that's so that I can make large sweeping motions and make it just really fluid. A lot of the murals I paint are with aerosol can, but the past couple years I've been trying to hone my skills with the brush.
which is ironic because I started painting with a brush and I actually learned how to use cans, spray paint, when I started doing large scale murals. But for interior gigs like this, it's not super appropriate to use spray paint. You know what I mean? I don't want to be putting a bunch of fumes and particles in this kid's room. That would be a danger to his health. And this is a little bit more straightforward. And especially since I'm using grayscale, it made mixing the colors for this mural super straightforward. I basically used black and white and mixed them together in a set of, I think I used 5 tones for this. So I started with that mid-tone kind of dark gray. That might have been my number 4 color. It was like a step below mid-tone. And then I added the next tone up to kind of shape out the body of the snake and get the planes of that spherical shape, if you will, of the winding body of the snake. And then I kind of just add highlights from there and then come back in and do my shadows and my darker values is what they're called. You might think of it as shading. The proper term for that is value structure. So there's your little art lesson for the day. Anyway, we're just filling out the details. And unfortunately, that's pretty much all the footage that I got for this. So you don't get to see any of the finishing details in the process. But nevertheless, here's the final piece. I think it turned out really nice. The color palette is super slick. Fits that room and that environment pretty darn well, if I do say so myself. So shout out to Nico. I hope you enjoy this mural. And thank you for watching. See you next time.